Still rolling, Cal.
10-4 still rolling.
Go ahead.
C-51, we've located same. It's showing to be Grove Avenue. 3983 is the OCAU. It was from 224.
10-4, that's where I was. GM stopped.
10-4, we're Sherrill Road, just before Pisgah Church Road. Hey man, how are you? Ah! County shots fired, I've been shot. County shots fired.
10-4 shot fired.
County, I've been hit.
10-4, we've got help and route. County, all county cars, you're en route. 10-4, 65 hand, or we're coming to you.
Jordan, I am grateful that I get to sit across from you today, because it's a miracle you still here, brother. And I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I know you personally, and no officer should have to go through what you did. And I'll let you talk a little bit about what we just saw.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I'm glad that I get this opportunity to come sit with you and talk to you, get to tell my story, let everybody hear it. But yeah, man, this video, it takes me a minute. Like every time I watch it and listen to it, like it takes me a minute to have to like try to reset. But yeah, this happened on July 15th, 2018. I wasn't even a year into law enforcement yet. I got sworn in on the 25th of July, and then so I was coming up on my 1 year. I guess you'd call it, say, an anniversary of.
So you came into law enforcement at 21.
Yeah,
and this
21.
happened about a year later.
Yeah, right at a year. So this was just a traffic stop. I was out in a pretty rough area of the county.
It's a very rural area.
Yeah, of Caldwell County.
Probably 10 houses on that road.
Yeah, it's not many houses at all. A lot of traffic through there. We've sat out there for years just trying to catch drugs and catch people dealing drugs and all that stuff. So I was just out in this area looking to stop cars, trying to get in a car chase.
About what time of night was it?
So this, I think this was about 11:30. We're coming up on midnight. I was just sitting out on this, the road was called Rocky Road, and I seen this car drive by. It's a little blue four-door car. I seen it pass me, so I immediately turned, get right behind it. As soon as the driver sees me turn out from where I was sitting and pull out behind them, they immediately take a right onto another road called Deerbrook Road. The vehicle starts traveling down Deerbrook Road. I get behind it, run the tag through our dispatch, our communications. They come back with a tag, expired tag, expired registration. So at that point, I have a valid reason for a stop, reasonable suspicion to stop the vehicle. So there was something at that point. Whenever I called this tag in, I just had this weird gut feeling of like, don't stop it where I'm at, because at the point where I got behind it at and where I ran the tag, at that point, I was a pretty good ways away from anybody else, any type of backup. Like I was pretty much the only unit on that side of the county. So my idea was I'm gonna wait till I get to this intersection of Sherrill Road and Abington Road, because it's a little bit closer. It's kind of, Abington Road's a main road. I'll try to pull it over right there. There's like a little gas station. I'll pull it there, and then if I need help, somebody can get to me. And like I said, all that was just a gut feeling of like something that's just weird, just off. And
Was he driving sporadically or pretty much normal?
Pretty normal. The only thing that really drew my attention was as soon as I pulled out behind him, he immediately took a right onto a different road, which is one of the signs. Like, I mean, as soon as I got behind him and then he takes a right, I mean, that's just kind of suspicious. Like, he don't want me behind him. So I followed him, got to this intersection that I planned on stopping him at. As soon as I get to the intersection, turn my blue lights, hit my blue lights on him. He goes through the intersection, straight across on the Sherrill Road, goes around a curve, which is another sign that being that new in the law enforcement, at the time I didn't really pick up on it. I was picking up on the whole, it's about to turn into a car chase,
Right.
Like I was getting excited. So he rolls through the intersection, and you can actually hear me call it out on there, like I say, still rolling county.
So you'd been following him a good bit before that video started.
I'd say I was probably following him I probably followed him for a mile or so before I ever hit lights and all that stuff. So he goes through the intersection, goes around that curve, goes up the road. You can hear my lieutenant on there. He eventually asked me if I got him stopped, to which he did. He pulled over. But another thing that I missed, just being young and then just starting in my career, was the fact that he didn't put the car in park.
That's a telltale.
Yeah, so if you watch the video, you can see on there that anytime you pull somebody over, and there's somebody puts it in park, that's normal. I mean, anytime you pull off the side of the road, you put it up in park, and to do that, they have to go through the reverse. So I mean, you'll see the reverse light pop up.
Right.
But he didn't do it. And that was another sign that I missed. Just that, and if you look at his tires, he didn't pull all the way off the road. He kept two, almost 4 tires up on the pavement.
Right.
So pretty much, they've always said that that's like anticipating, like I'm getting ready to run, take off. But yeah, that's just that initial approach, man. And then I picked up on like him, like I seen him in the car, and then as I started getting closer, I could see the female sitting in the passenger seat, and as I'm walking up, I could kind of tell that he was acting a little awkward, and like most people, they're just real nonchalant. They're real lax. Their shoulders are not like all tensed up and everything, and they'll just sit normal, or they'll have their hands up on the steering wheel or one arm propped up on the window. But him, I could tell that like he was his shoulders, like he was real stiff looking, which was kind of weird, It was like, and as I started walking up, just when I got to that back door on the driver's side there, I approached it the same way I've approached I don't know how many traffic stops. I did the same thing always. I just walk up and say, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?" As soon as I got up there, said that, and then all I could see was just the shoulders turn, and which was weird in itself, just like the whole your mind trying to catch up to everything that's going on. And just when I seen his shoulders turn, and then I seen like the next thing I could see was his left hand covering his right hand, which was very, very odd at the time. You don't, and everything's happening so fast you can't pick up on it. And as he turns, and then he slowly moves his left hand, all I can see is just the pistol. And it's crazy how your mind works and how your body, like everything just shifts. And you go from like this kind of, like I was already on guard, you know, I mean, just working, having that uniform on, I was already like in a zone. But whenever that pistol pops up and you see that pistol, everything just changes. Like your mind.
And he didn't hesitate, man. That was quick.
No, it was quick.
He'd already made up his mind what he was going to do.
I think that was. I went back and watched it multiple times and watched the replayed it and just like sit and replayed it from the time that I walk up and the time that I say, "Hey buddy, how are you doing?" to the time that the bang goes off. And I think it ended up being like 5 seconds or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, that's quick. I mean, yeah, I didn't have time to do nothing.
And the round hit you.
Yeah, right below my vest. So I had on the bulletproof vest, our carriers and stuff, which it goes down to like your belly button, and that's where it stops at. The bullet went right below my vest on my right side, pretty much probably 5 inches to the right of my belly button, and just right below my vest. So yeah.
And what caliber round was it?
It was a 40
caliber.
They ended up later on. This was later on in the story, but they found a gun that he was using, and it was a 40 caliber. So I'm assuming that that's probably what he had.
Because the round didn't embed; it was through and through.
Yep, through and through. But yeah, like I was saying, man, like it's crazy what your mind does, because like whenever I first seen that gun come out that window, everything just went straight to the gun, like tunnel vision, you know, just really focused on it. One of the craziest things to me is that the gun looked like a cannon. Almost, really.
That's what a lot of people say.
Yeah, I lost all of my my hearing. Like I didn't hear
auditory exclusion.
Yep, didn't hear any of that. I never heard the gun go off. I could see the flame coming out the barrel, but I never heard the gun go off.
Did it appear like it was slow motion almost?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's crazy how everything just kind of stops for a minute. Everything just pauses, really.
Yeah.
And then you go into that oh crap factor of
right.
did this really just happen? And
so I'll pause you right there. I wanted to get your reaction immediately after watching this video again, but take a moment to introduce yourself and how you got into law enforcement. What was your inspiration to even make the decision to take oath and wear a badge, your BLET experience, where you went, and what you learned from there, and what carried over and what did not prepare you for what you experienced on the road.
Right. Well, I'm like you said, I'm Jordan Sherrill. I've been in law enforcement for 7 years now. I got started back in 2017. I'm still work for the same agency, Caldwell County Sheriff's Office. I still work there. Currently a detective for Caldwell County Sheriff's Office. But I grew up in Caldwell County. I was raised there my whole life. And I'll be honest with you, like I never had any dreams of like going and getting into law enforcement and all that stuff. I was always busy in sports and never really ever thought about it, to be honest with you. So kind of what started the whole change was me and my brother. We was both living at home with our parents at the time. Me and my brother, we were staying up. We stayed up real late one night. We watched. We heard this truck coming down our road that we lived on. The truck was really loud and really got our attention. So I jump up. I go in the kitchen and I look out towards the road where I heard the truck. I look over, I see this truck pull up, turn all of its lights off, and this is like 1 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it's late. It pulls up, turns its lights off, turns the truck off, and then this dude gets out and he puts a hood up, and I'm like, God, this is weird. And
like a hoodie is wearing or something?
Yeah, and I think at the time I was probably 19, 18, 19, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
So I watch this guy go across the road. He goes over to our neighbor's house, and our neighbor's got a garage that sets off to the left of the house. The guy runs over there, and I watched him go all the way over to the building, and then I seen him. He just disappeared around the backside of the building. So at that point, I'm like, man, this ain't right. Something not right. And then next thing I know, I see this dude coming back, and he's carrying a bunch of stuff from our neighbor's building.
Oh,
so
breaking and entering.
Yep, breaking and entering, and so he grabs all this stuff and he's like throwing it in the truck. So I jump up, run to my dad's room, get my dad. We call 911. The guy's still over there, like still going at it, like still just carrying tons of stuff and putting it in the bed of his truck. I think one of the last things I seen him grab was a ladder, and so we called 911. And I remember sitting there in my house and just watching. And this dude eventually gets in his truck and he drives off. But I remember like sitting there in my house and I could hear the sirens coming down the main road, and then eventually I see them come down our road, and seeing those guys like coming out there, and then just the whole area just lit up with blue lights. It was cool. That was a cool experience. I was just like, I'd never experienced that before, because I mean, where we lived at, we didn't have problems like that. It's very out in the middle of nowhere. Nobody bothered anybody. So seeing that, I was just like, dang, this is awesome here. Mm-hmm. And just so happens that one of the guys that was working, he was a sergeant at the time. Him and my dad knew each other, so he came up to the house, and first time I'd ever met him, and we got to talking to him and stuff like that. And he eventually told me about ride-along forms and all that stuff. So he brought me. I want to say I was probably 18 or 19. He brought me a ride-along form up to the house one day, and I filled it out, gave it to him. And still at this time, I was just like, I didn't really care anything about getting it, like joining or nothing like that. I wasn't really sure about it. I was just kind of like interested to go and ride and see what it was about. So I filled out this form, got it signed, and it had to be approved through like the command staff and all during that time to the sheriff's office. And I went and started doing ride-alongs with this guy, like probably every week. Like I did it a couple times there starting out, and then it's like I started getting hooked. Like I was like, this is awesome, man. Like going with him, and I had to stay in the car the whole time, but watching him and listening to the calls that was coming in, watching what he was doing, how he was handling calls, stopping cars, all this stuff. Like I was starting to get the bug, what they call it.
So just from doing ride-alongs, your opinion of what you saw law enforcement do on a daily basis, did that change after you actually saw in ride-alongs?
Yeah.
Would that be something you'd recommend to the general public to do?
Yeah. Oh yeah, 110%.
What was the difference you saw when you started riding along? What kind of exposure did it just expose you to?
So it really opens you up, because like I said, where I grew up at, like I had a pretty easy life. I didn't really didn't see all this bad stuff that was going on. After I started doing ride-alongs, I was just like, people are crazy. Like people are, oh my gosh! Like I had no clue that this stuff was happening. In your
own county.
Yeah. I mean, the places that I had been, like Walmart, like all these different places, like in the county that I had been to, and like I didn't even realize that all this was that all this went on. I mean, we was taking people to jail for drugs, and just watching people watching people cuss the deputy that I was with at the time, watching them cuss him out, watching them having to fight people, watching people like, I mean, it'll blow your mind.
And I had the exact same experience, but when I made the decision that I was going to get into the career,
Yeah.
I just had a assumption of what I thought law enforcement did on a daily basis, and that first time riding along with somebody, I was like, this is nothing like what I thought it was.
Yeah. No, I was the same way. I was the exact same way. Just it opens your eyes to a lot of stuff that like what, because a lot of, I mean, you know, I know you know it, but like people don't understand like a lot of the stuff that we see and have to deal with on a daily basis and stuff that's just like repetitive.
Very repetitive.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's the same offenders, but there's always new ones getting added to the mix.
Yeah, that's a fact.
So you started doing ride-alongs, and then what happened after that?
So I was doing the ride-alongs, and I was doing them every week. Like, I mean, I was calling this guy just like, hey, you working this weekend? You working this weekend? So one night I was actually I was at home, still living with my parents at this time. I was at home. I was reading my Bible, and I think I was 20. I think I was 20 at this point. Reading. I was laying there reading my Bible, and I just happened to flip to a book in the Bible, and I was sitting there reading it, and I don't know why it just popped up. It's just what I was. But it's Psalms 82, and it's verse 3 and 4. Psalms 82, verse 3 and 4, and it's rescue the weak and the needy, and delivereth them from the hand of the wicked. And when I seen that verse in the Bible, and I seen that and I read that, I was like, it's on now.
It's a calling.
Yeah, I was like, it's on now. So I think I pondered on it for probably maybe another week or two, you know, just really thinking about it. I talked to my family about it, and went straight to the college, got me the application and stuff for BLET, the BLET program. I think I went to ended up going to the sheriff's office, you know, going through the whole, what they call that, the sponsorship, because you have to be sponsored to go to BLET. Yeah. So I went down there, got a sponsorship through the Caldwell County Sheriff's Office, because in my mind, like, that was where I was wanting to go.
Hometown.
Yeah, hometown. I wanted to go to the sheriff's office, have county-wide jurisdiction, you know, work anything inside the county. So went straight into it. Trying to think, got sidetracked.
So basically, from after you were doing ride-alongs, you got sponsored to go to BLET. Where did you go to BLET?
So I went through BLET at Caldwell County Caldwell Community College, in Hudson, in Hudson of Caldwell, and I went through in 2017. I was only 20 when I went through. I was 20 and a half.
You got to be 21 to be a law enforcement officer, because that's the requirements for firearms in law enforcement.
Yeah, and then some, like, see, I've heard that some PDs, they'll let you start like at 20 and a half.
I think they will, as long as you, when you take oath, you're 21.
Yeah, but the sheriff's office, you know, that was the requirement. Like, you had to be 21 years of age and all that. So I went through the BLET of 2017. I started in January, 16-week course. I think April, May, somewhere around there, I was graduating. So the Caldwell County Sheriff's Office at that time, they didn't have any spots open on the road.
That's unusual.
Yeah, they didn't have any spots open on the road at that time for patrol. And I was offered a spot in the jail, like to start out in the jail and then come out of the jail, you know, and then you can go to the road like when a spot opens up. But now, like, that wasn't me. I was just like, that wasn't my calling. My calling to me was like, I'm going straight to the road. Like, I want to go to work. So they offered me that spot in the jail, and I was just like, so I started branching out some, reaching out to other agencies, kind of started a hiring process with another agency, and was talking to a couple other ones, just trying to open my options up to places that had available road positions, and man, just worked out perfectly. The guy that I was doing the ride-alongs with, his shift had a spot come open, and they came straight to me, was just like, hey, let's get to rolling. So that's what I did. Then I put in for that spot.
So you immediately went straight to patrol?
Yeah, went through the whole hiring process and all that, and then I went straight to the road.
So in the beginning, how would you describe your transition from graduating BLET to actually doing your profession's work on a shift for the first week? How would you describe it?
Crazy. It's nothing. BLET is nothing like they teach you. Don't get me wrong. They teach you stuff that
give you the basics.
Yeah. They teach you stuff that you learn and you need to know. But I've always said it, man. When you step out, when you hit them streets, it's a completely different ball game. It is a different world. They teach you handcuff, techniques to handcuff people and how to deal with people and how to talk to people and everything like that. But then you go out here on your first day, and then you step out there and you got some drunk dude or somebody that's high.
That's really drunk, not playing drunk. He's real deal drunk.
Yeah, really drunk. And then you get somebody out there like that just starts. As soon as you step out of your car, they start screaming and cussing at you.
Yeah.
How you handle that?
Right.
They don't teach. They don't teach you that. So yeah, it's different. BLET, like you said, they give you the basics, and then it's like you're thrown to the wolves.
Yeah.
You just go get it.
And on top of it, a lot of new hires that's straight out of BLET, if they're not familiar with the county, or even if they are familiar with the county, you got to start learning the entire county.
Yeah.
Which means almost every road.
Yep.
You've got about 3 months to do this. You've got to learn how to write reports, how to talk to people, what information to get from people, what information is pertinent, and then what is not, because when you get on the scene, most people want to tell you their life story.
Yeah.
20 years of how they've had stuff stolen, and you need to know what happened the last 8 hours. But that all comes in time, but they don't prepare you for that in BLET. That's where hooking up with a good field training officer is.
Yeah.
And how important was that to you to get good field training?
It was, man, that was. I've always said I learned more in field training than I did the whole entire time that I was at BLET, or basic law enforcement training.
Right.
Just the getting out there and experiencing it. So yeah, having a good FTO or field training officer, FTO, having a good person to show you the ropes and show you how to do stuff and do it correctly.
Doesn't cut corners.
Yeah,
they got to be thorough.
Exactly. Yep. And officer safety, and I'll always preach that. Of course, my dang video. So
right.
Teaching people officer safety, pay attention. You need to pay attention to what you're doing. You always need to be paying attention to your surroundings. And then just train, man.
And never become complacent.
Yeah.
Always be on a swivel.
Yep. Having somebody just to teach you traffic stops, this is a safer way to do it. Go to the passenger side. Do
Absolutely.
this. Do this. Do that. Just really just showing people, how to do stuff and do it correctly, and do it safely is the main thing. And I think a lot of people they get into this career, and then they start, and then it's the complacency kicks in, and people start, and man, you can't do that. You gotta stay focused. You gotta worry about your safety and other officer safety. So
yeah. So what did you find that you might not have known about law enforcement when you come in? What was the sacrifice, family-wise, time-wise? What did it ask? Did it ask you to come in on your days off?
Oh yeah,
That kind of deal.
Yeah. So I noticed right off the bat. I mean, I was still living at home. I didn't have a wife and all of that starting out. I was still living at home with my parents, and so I started noticing that like I was missing a lot of stuff. Like you don't realize it at the time, but you just realize like all the. It took me a while to realize it because I was so young and just getting into the profession. Like I was gung ho, just ready to roll. And but as time went on, I started noticing that like, dang, I'm working all the time. You know,
Right.
Really putting the hours in. But what was
Like training, like when was that training mostly occurring?
you talking about like shift?
Like were they? So when you had court dates, sometimes they fell on your days off.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Sometimes a lot of training happened on days off.
Grand jury. Yeah, you know, because we'd work the. We call it a swing shift. You know, we'd work 2 days on, 2 days off, then work 3 days, and then the next week it would flip 2 days off, 2 days on, and then 3 days off. So
Right.
flip flopping, that's rough in itself. But yeah, a lot of times, like you were saying, on your days off, say if you had Monday off, you know, you'd get called in for grand jury. You have to go up there and testify for grand jury. So yeah, just
And a typical shift, unless it's changed, what my understanding is they're 12-hour shifts.
12 hour shift. Start real early in the morning, and then you go all day through the evening until.
And it's either evening all the way until early morning.
Yeah, like you know, it was always said a 12-hour shift, but it ain't a 12-hour shift, man. Like
It's never shorter than 12, though. Is it? Never.
No, it's never. You never get home early. That's for sure. Like
Yeah.
as soon as you clock on, you're there probably an hour, 2 hours over every single time. I mean, it was hardly ever that I got home on time.
Right.
I mean, it was work all day or all night, and then
And if it was all night and you happen to have grand jury the next day,
yeah,
then it wasn't going to sleep. Or
Yeah,
if you did, it was only for an hour or so.
And then the crazy part is like, and I mean, you probably know this from experience, but like, I don't know what it was, but the majority of the time, if you're working night shift, something crazy would usually always happen right towards the end of shift. Like right when you're like getting ready.
5 a.m.
Like right when you're getting ready to go home and you're getting ready to call it a day or a night, the crap would always happen between 3 to 5 or whatever. And then you end up being at the dang office typing paperwork or doing reports till 7 in the morning when you were supposed to be home 2 hours ago. So
I know you're married now, but going up from the time you joined the sheriff's office until you got married, was it difficult to have relationships?
yeah, yeah, at that time it was. I mean, looking at it now, I never really thought about it, but yeah, it was because I mean you're constantly just
The schedule changes.
yeah. I mean we were doing. And I think they still do it this way, but it's 2 months a day shift, 2 months a night shift. So 2 months of days you work 2 months, and then you got to flip. You got to flip you got to flip your whole schedule, and then you go to night shift for 2 months, and then you work night shift for 2 months, and then so I mean, yeah, it was. I mean, it could be difficult to manage relationships, not only with just like spouse or whatever, but also with the other family as well, you know, because like I was saying, like with my parents and stuff, me living there at the time, I mean, it was, I couldn't hardly ever keep up with what they were doing. They couldn't keep up with what I was doing, you know.
Right. How do you think your shooting had an effect on your mom and dad?
True. They've had it rough. They've had it pretty rough. They wouldn't ever really just like come out and tell me. My dad's talked to me about it a few times.
Did they support your decision to join law enforcement in the beginning?
Oh yeah, 110%. They never questioned it one bit. Of course, my mom, being a mother, you know, she was always kind of on the edge about it, just the danger of it and everything like that, which is normal. But no, they never questioned it one bit. They was always behind me and everything, and never told me that I should do something else.
Even after the shooting?
And even after.
That's good.
Yeah, even after.
I don't think, well, I'm not so sure my parents would have told me that. I think they would have been telling me to get out.
Yeah, no, and I did. I had a lot of people, I still do to this day, but I've had a lot of people tell me that I should have hung it up, retired, you know, just quit, get out of it.
Did it ever cross your mind?
It did. I mean, I'd definitely be lying to you if I said it didn't, but yeah, it did. There was a few times. There's a few times in the hospital when I was there, like, you know, I thought about it then. I was just like, God, do I really want to do this again? Go through the, you know. And then, like, as my career goes on, there's times too where I'm just like, God, I should have probably retired, you know, but just dealing with stuff. But no, I've always tried to stick to the reason I got into it, you know, and that Bible verse, and just hang on to that and keep on pushing forward. So,
well, I'm glad you did. I'm glad you found a good calling, especially spiritually, because I think it takes something of that nature to make a career out of this job.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely not to pay, and it's definitely not to get rank or any of that. But I do think it's to help people, even, and I'm just so glad you survived that.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
Do you want to watch
it?
Yes, sir. Honor is mine to have you here, brother. Do you want to watch the rest of this call?
Yeah. Yep. Go ahead.
All right. We'll let them cue it up.
Ten four.
I'll be around.
So you had made it back to your car at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Got put a Bolo on that vehicle and notify all your PDs.
Yeah. So I made it back to my
County,
car.
he took off.
And then I opened my door up. And I'm sitting there and I'm trying to just honestly just trying to think of like what I could do to help the situation.
Where you
Because after it happened, you know, my mind like went to this whole.
In the abdomen.
You know, they tell you in BLET, you know, like the OODA,
Oh, my God, over county.
how your mind, if something like this happens, how your mind will just go through all these different emotions. And
I've been hitting the
so that's
abdomen,
what I
County.
was going through. I was just like, there's no way that this happened. What the heck? Just, there's no way. Like, oh my God, I can't believe this crap.
Yeah.
And then, so you can see that, like, so there's a guy, I'll explain this right here.
I've been shot.
There's a guy walking up the road. This guy was actually a neighbor who lived right there in the area. He heard the gunshot. He was actually sitting outside on his porch playing guitar. And gunshot, seeing that my lights didn't move.
So that's a civilian that came to help.
And he heard the gunshots. Seeing that my lights didn't move, he said he heard the car take off. And he just comes down. He comes there to help me. Of course, at the time, I wasn't, you know, with everything that was going on, I wasn't really sure about him whenever he first come walking up. You couldn't really see it in my video, but I actually like
I'm 10-4,
grabbed
County,
my
getting
pistol,
lightheaded.
whenever he comes walking up, just because I didn't know who he was or what he was wanting or what he was doing. So,
Oh, you really.
I started.
It hurts.
So my.
You want me to take the belt off?
Just put pressure on it.
So when I first when it happened, you know, I took off running because I was standing on that X, and he was trying to kill me, and my best option at that point was to get the heck away from that.
Right.
So I turned around, took off running. My initial thought, and this kind of tell you how your mind works in that situation. Was my initial thought was like, I'm gonna turn around, I'm gonna take off running, I'm gonna get behind my patrol car, I'm gonna get me some cover, and then I'm gonna turn around and then deal with the situation.
You can tell if it went through.
As you can see in my video, I ran like probably 40 yards.
County ETA.
Wait a minute.
Just because my
Yeah, it
mind
did.
was just
It went through.
Yeah.
55, just relax. We got people coming through. Just take off.
So that civilian right there was just telling you that it went all the way through.
There's two places you're bleeding from.
So that's the first time you knew right there. What kind of pain was you experiencing?
So I knew that I knew that I'd been hit, like, because I wasn't sure there for at the beginning, I wasn't sure if it hit me in the vest, or if it actually hit me in my stomach or whatever. So
Did you have a lot of blood?
Really? No. So I looked down, and I remember that was one of the worst feelings ever, because I was just like, please don't be a hole, please don't be a hole.
Kind of
And I looked down and I could see a hole in my shirt right below my vest. The hole was, I mean, it was tiny. I mean, it wasn't that big. Just where the bullet had went through. But no, there wasn't that much blood. It was probably just a little ring, like that.
Right.
Of blood around,
God dang.
around the ring.
150.
So I knew that the
We've out of
I knew that the bleeding.
helicopter. I'm sending a SWAT medic in. Emergency traffic. He's gonna beat your Anderson, and crew 3's gonna beat your Anderson coming to an emergency.
Yeah, what you heard was
I heard your siren. Stepped
so I
outside.
laid down. I eventually just
Hey,
laid
boys,
down,
just about on
sat down
also.
because I was afraid that I was gonna pass out, and like possibly I didn't want to make matters worse, so I was just like, just sit down. And then he got there, and then I just had him put pressure on it. I didn't really have anything at the time to fix that type of wound.
Was the pain like unbearable, or were you dealing?
No, it sucked.
It was bad.
Yeah, it was.
So it never went numb.
No, so the initial when it first happened, it wasn't that bad. Like everything rolling. I didn't really feel anything,
And what the audience is hearing right there is a radio walking on somebody else's traffic when it gives you that beat.
God, it hurts.
So that's
like a
what it is. It's actually rolling on his mic lapel. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I didn't feel it initially, but if you watch on my video, I go back to my patrol car and I sit down in my patrol car. Well, I sit there for a minute because I'm also just trying to think about what can I do
Through.
to just
Through and through? Yeah.
So sitting in the car was all I
52
could think
now. I'm
about.
having trouble breathing.
So I sit down in the car. Well, as I'm sitting there, you can actually hear
Stay
my
still,
breathing.
brother.
I'll let y'all do
We're gonna get you
You
help.
can actually hear my breathing start to come down.
Hey, buddy. Hey.
Hey.
County, we got through and through.
But yeah, you can hear my breathing like start slowing down, and all that was is I like started talking. I started just talking myself down,
Right.
Just trying to calm, and I was just like, chill out, just relax. I just kept telling myself, just focus on your breathing, focus on your breathing. So I did that, and eventually, I guess that adrenaline started coming down with it, and the pain just immediately kicked in. It was started like a stabbing, burning. I mean, any type of pain that you can think of, you just times that by 10, and that's what it felt like.
Was it the worst pain you ever felt in your life?
Yep, by far. I kept having this like shooting pain that would go all the way down my leg. It would start from like where the where the entry wound was, and then it would shoot down my leg, and it was just like every time. It was almost like every time a heartbeat, and the pain and it just kept going and going.
So what was going through your mind?
So at that point, I was honestly just trying to keep myself focused on staying calm, focusing on my breathing, focusing on like what I needed to do to survive the whole that incident.
So it was all training thoughts.
Yeah, and it was majority of it was, and then like the biggest thing for me was I was just like, don't go to sleep. Like, don't go to sleep. Like, don't you pass out. Don't you go to sleep, because I was scared to death that if I went to sleep that I wouldn't wake up. So, and I've had tons of people ask me, and a lot of people have thought that I passed out and all that, but I never passed out one time. Like, I never fainted, never went out once. I was awake the whole time from when it happened to they put me to sleep in the hospital. So I was awake the whole every bit of it.
And all this come from an expired tag, a simple ticket. And usually, unless you've got some other illegal operations going on inside the car. But this is the result of that. And I think a lot of people sometimes say, well, I've never been pulled over, never had a ticket before in my life, but that officer just treated me like I was, a major bank suspect in a robbery.
Yeah.
And it's not because they think of you as being a criminal or nothing. They're being protective of themselves because they want to go home to their family at the end of the shift.
Yep, that's
and
right.
this is a prime example. I think you come up to the window and hadn't actually made it to the window yet, but you said, "How you doing tonight, sir?" And you were shocked immediately.
Yeah, I think I said, "How you doing, buddy?"
Right.
And then it flipped just like that.
Right.
So yeah, I mean it don't take nothing. I mean as you could see, I mean it happens fast too. I mean it's not like the only thing you can do is train and be prepared for it. Be prepared for that.
So they airlifted you?
They did. So I was there for 5 minutes, I think. I was out there on the side of the road for 5 minutes. Other deputies got to me. SWAT medic that was on our SWAT team, he was the first one there. He gets there, he starts working on me. Ambulance pulls in right behind him. They load me up into the ambulance, get me hooked up to all these IVs and oxygen and all that stuff. They couldn't give me any pain medicine because my blood pressure was dropping. So no pain meds, nothing like that. I just had to tough it out. So they get me in the ambulance. They take me to the hospital. They got me to the hospital probably 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I sat there, waited on the helicopter. Helicopter flew in. They came, did their thing, got me stable to fly. They loaded me up in a helicopter, and then they flew me to Charlotte Hospital. And I think from the time that it happened to the time that I was sitting in Charlotte's hospital was probably like 40 minutes.
40 minutes.
Yeah, about 40, 45, something like that.
So tell us about the medical procedures. What did they do?
So
what kind of injury was it and that sort of thing?
So what had happened, they did the surgery. They ended up they cut me from the bottom of my sternum all the way down to about my belt buckle. They cut me all the way down my stomach. And pretty much what they had to do was they had to just go in and clean every single thing out. They had to go through all of my intestines, just everything, inch by inch, and just check it and make sure that everything was good. They ended up taking out a quarter of my colon and then 6 inches of my small intestines that had just been damaged during the gunshot. And the doctor that did the surgery actually came in, I think that morning after the surgery, and told my parents that the bullet had missed my femoral artery that runs down your leg. He said it missed it by like a quarter of an inch.
Quarter inch.
Yeah.
That would have been a game ender right there.
Yeah, I'd have been done. If it would have hit that femoral artery, the position I was in, like I wouldn't have had anything to stop it. I wouldn't have been able to stop it. I'd have definitely more than likely bled out on the side of the road.
How close do you come that night?
What's that?
How close do you think you come to buying the farm that night?
Quarter an inch, I reckon.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're here, man. I mean, it's a miracle. I mean, it really is. And, you know, I even train people to try to not be in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And if it happens, what to do. But watching it is unbelievable how fast it was. Mm-hmm. And I've always taught approaching traffic stops from the passenger side. I'm a firm believer in that because that shot's hard to spin when you think about everything that's to the left of you if you're sitting in the driver's seat of the vehicle. It's hard to spin and be as accurate, but that left shot, you can make that fairly easy.
Yeah, I've ever since that, I've changed up my whole way of doing traffic stops.
Mm-hmm.
I go to the passenger side every single time now,
mm-hmm.
And the majority of the time, I'll stop at the trunk of the car, and I'll tell whoever's in the car to put their hands up on the steering wheel. I'm not like straight up in the air, but like I'll just be like, "Hey, put your hands up on the steering wheel, or put your hands on the dash," or you know, just it's a simple command. It's not like I'm being a butt or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a simple command. Just like, hey, put your hands on the steering wheel. And I'll stop at the trunk, and I'll stay there. If they don't listen to it, then it's a different approach. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
If they listen to me and they put their hands on the steering wheel or whatever I ask them to do, then I'll go on up and I'll talk to them, make them do what I need to do. But if you can't follow a simple command of me just asking you like nicely to put your hands up on the steering wheel, then I'm gonna stay right where I'm at, and then we're gonna handle the situation a little different.
And I think a lot of people that especially never been pulled over that may have anticipations about police work try to get into this mindset, well, he's not going to tell me what to do. I don't have to put my hands on the steering wheel. And it's not that it's a command coming. It's just simply to be cordial, that you're not a threat. Yeah. And if you're not a threat, then we proceed with what we have to do here. But it's not to, you know, diminish that individual or to try to gain authority over that individual.
No, it's not.
Just simply safety. Yeah. That's all it is.
Yeah, and it's not like I'm trying to be bossy or trying to just like my authority, you know. It's like it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with that right there.
Right.
That's what it has to do with. It has everything to do with that, my video, me getting shot. That's what that has to do with. Like I'm not being a butt. I'm not being an ass. I mean, I'm just simply asking, put your hands where I can see them, because I don't want that to happen again, you know?
Absolutely.
So
from the time all this happened where you're shooting, how long was you out before you come back?
So I was in the hospital. I was in Charlotte for a week after my surgery. In all, I was out for 3 months. I think, 3 months. It happened in July. I eventually went back to light duty in October. Was on light duty for 2 weeks and then went back to patrol.
So 3 months, 2 weeks.
Yeah,
that's really faster than I thought.
Yeah,
I mean, to be honest with you,
3 months. 3 months total, just healing and everything, and then 2 weeks of light duty, just doing paperwork and all that stuff. And then I got tired of the paperwork and was like, I'm going back to the road. I ain't doing all this stuff. So
that when you started back, was you on night shift or day shift?
Night shift.
So how was that first night back?
Man, that was hard. That's hard to do.
Was there some nerves involved?
Yeah, big time. I really had to like focus in. So I went whenever I decided that I wanted to go back to the road, I went to our patrol captain at the time, and I asked him. I was like, I'm ready to go back. I want to go back. And they had talked about sending me through field training and doing all that again, but I didn't need that. You know, like I knew what I was doing. I knew how to do my job, and so I didn't feel like I needed to go back through field training. Just one of the things that I requested was, hey, when I first come back, can I just ride with somebody can I ride with my supervisor or somebody? Can I just ride with them for, I don't know, however many weeks till I just start getting back.
Feel good.
Yeah, till I get back in the game. And so I did that for, I don't know, probably 3, 4 weeks, just riding with somebody, Still answering call. I mean, I was working, but, I was just with somebody that way. And my whole outlook on it is like, I didn't think I was going to freak out, but, like, I just wanted somebody with me just in case I did have, like, a...
So you never know what's going to trigger.
No, and you don't. And so I just wanted somebody there just, like, mentally, just to help me keep me mentally checked. So I did that for, like I said, like 3 or 4 weeks. But, that first day, that first night coming back after I just dealt with all of this and been through that, you really start questioning yourself a lot.
So you said the importance to be, mentally checked. And how has that been mentally since all this?
At first it was great. At first everything was fine. I got back into work, started working, was doing great. Just never. I didn't really pay attention. Like I had little signs and stuff that would pop up mentally. Like, for instance, I'd be working and somebody would shoot a gun at a neighbor's house, and I'm out on a call. Somebody'd shoot a gun down the road. I would immediately just like tense. Just that.
Just a snap reaction.
Yeah, just a snap reaction of like, oh crap. So I started noticing little stuff like that. I didn't really have any like nightmares or dreams or anything like that starting out. I was really, like I said, everything was really good. I was working, and then as time goes on, I started noticing stuff more and more and more. Just the mental side of it. Just was noticing that like I was a whole lot more on edge than what I used to be. Like I was real edgy. Like anytime I heard something slam or pop or anything like that, I'd tense up. Automatically go into like that fight or flight mode. It wasn't nothing to the point where I'm like taking off running, freaking out, but it was like enough to get my attention of like is this a threat or is it not? Right. So then it just keeps going, like all that just keeps building up and just like over time, and you don't realize that it's happening, but it is, and so probably about a year or two, probably about 2 years in.
So a year after your shooting?
Yeah, probably 2 years after my shooting.
Okay.
I was working on patrol. I was going to a call, and I think I had started having like some nightmares at this point. Like I'd started waking up during the middle of the night, just pouring sweat. Just of just reliving kind of something like what happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was going to a call, and I think it was just an alarm call or something like that, something simple. Well, I say simple, but simple to us, like, so I'm like, I check in route, I'm driving to this alarm call, I'm going up the road. Well, all of a sudden I start feeling my chest getting tight. I'm like, man, this is weird. So I just keep driving, and my chest just feels like it keeps getting tighter and tighter and tighter. Well, then my hands start tingling, and I'm just like, God, what the heck is going on? Well, then hands start getting real sweaty, you know.
What kind of call was this? Do you remember?
Alarm.
Oh, just an alarm.
I think
a routine alarm.
Yeah, I think it was just an alarm call. And so I'm driving up the road and, like, you know, everything, like, my hands are starting to tingle, like, they're going numb. I feel like I can't breathe. Like, vision's kind of starting to mess up, like, it kind of going blurry a little bit.
And you're like 24, 25 years old at this point, physically fit.
Yeah, I'm like 23. Yeah, 23, 24.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, 24.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, God, am I like having a heart attack? Like, what's going on? I'm like, what the heck is going on? So eventually I pull over, I park at this church, and I get out of my car. I get out, start taking some deep breaths. And then, like, I literally just had to pace back and forth outside of my car, my patrol car. And I mean, I'm in uniform, you know, and everything. And I'm just out in this parking lot and walking back and forth. And it's nighttime. It's dark outside. And I'm walking back and forth. And I eventually catch my breath. And I get calmed down. And my hands, I start getting my feeling back and everything. And, well, I'm just like, God, am I panicking? Am I just freaking out? Which is what I was doing. You know, I was having a panic attack. So I called my lieutenant who was working, and I tell him, I'm just like, hey, I said, hey, can you, I said, I'm going to this call. I was like, I don't want you to think I'm just like not going to it. I was like, but I'm freaking, like, I'm having a panic attack. Like, I had to pull over. I'm outside my car, like, catching my breath. I was like, so I'm just going to need a minute. Well, my lieutenant, he drives over there to me. He comes up there. He checks on me. He sits there and me and him talk for a few minutes. And then he's like, okay, I'll go handle this call. You just do what you got to do. Well, I was like, no, I'll go with you. I'll go with you. So I go with him. We go up, me and him go up. We check this alarm call. Ended up being nothing. So we clear it. They give us another call.
Now, had you come back down a little bit after this?
Yeah, so I came back down a little bit, and I was just like, this is weird. But I was still kind of on that edge of like, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to explain like you can, it's like you're good, but you're not good. Like I was good and I could focus and like do what I needed to do, but it was like I was on the verge of like, at any point I could start panic, like that feeling that'll start again. So they give us another call. We go to it, answer it. I'm good. We get another one after that one. Like, this is a busy part of the night, so they're giving us all kinds of calls. So they give us another one. We go to it. We handle it. Still good. Well, then me and my lieutenant, we go to a gas station. We stop to fill our cars up. And I get out and I'm pumping my gas. Well, then it hits me again. Like, bad. Like, couldn't breathe, like, or at least felt like I couldn't breathe, you know. And like, God, I'm dying. Like, so I did it again, and I eventually got myself calmed down again. Like, had to refocus.
And that's the first time anything like that happened to you in your entire life.
I'd had some like minor panic attacks like back before I started law enforcement, but not like this. Like, this was a different beast. And so I just looked at my lieutenant and I was like, I'm gonna have to go home. I mean, I said I can't work like this. I was like, I said I can't focus. I can't do my job. I'm gonna end up getting myself hurt, or I'm gonna get somebody else hurt. I was like, I need to go home. So that's what I did. He ended up following me home. And then I stayed at home that night. You know, next day I was completely fine. You know, went back to work. Didn't have any trouble the next night. You know, or multiple nights after that. You know, it was just I was good, but yeah, that that was like that was the point where I started noticing like, damn, I might have like some mental stuff going on here, like
Some PTSD.
yeah, like post-traumatic stress stuff going on. Because up till that point, you know, like I was fine. Like nothing bothered me. I didn't pay attention. You know, like I was just working, doing my job, hanging out with the guys on my shift. You know, we'd get together and do stuff all the time. And so you know, it didn't really phase me until I got to that point. And then when that happened that night when I was working, I was just like, something not right. But still, I didn't really pay attention to it then either. You know, like whenever that happened that night, I just went straight back to work, you know, and just kept going. I didn't really have any other panic attacks, but like I just kind of pushed everything to the side, you know, that I was feeling mentally or like.
Like when you were getting off duty, was it still following you off duty?
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. Yeah, like, you know, they tell us all the time, like, you go home and you cut that, you got to go home, turn it off, like, go home, turn that switch off, or, you know, like, that don't happen. Like, I mean, to an extent, yeah, like, I mean, to an extent, you're like, yeah, I'm in the safety of my own home, like, you know, I can kind of relax and chill.
Right.
But, I mean, that's like, hell, one of the things I noticed was ever since I've had I got a little boy now. Ever since we've had him, that switch is still pretty much on. Because like even inside the house, I'm constantly watching him, like making sure he's not putting stuff in his mouth. You know, making sure that nothing, like he's not gonna do anything that's gonna hurt him, and just a constant, just like so. Yeah, the job I definitely started taking it home. So
about 3 years after your shooting, you ended up getting married about that time frame?
Yeah. I think it's 3.
How did that change your outlook? Or did it?
On my shooting?
No,
or
like
just
on
the job?
On the job and what the sacrifices it asked from your family?
It didn't really change my outlook on it. Because my wife, I mean, she's always been real supportive. I mean, when we was dating at the time.
She knew about all the shoot stuff way before.
So when I got shot, we was like dating at the time.
Right.
And she was down there the whole week that I was there, because I was there for a week, went home for a night, ended up getting sick, had to go back for another week, and I mean, she was there through the whole process. She was there from the time it happened to
right now.
my recovery, and now. Yeah. And so I mean, she understood what it.
And do you think she's seen a change in you at any bit?
Oh yeah, big time. So that's what I was gonna say. Like, you know, I didn't really see it then because, you know, I was just young and just full of the job, you know, and everything. But the longer that I go in this career, like the more I've started really noticing stuff about myself, like mentally and everything else. And now I've started picking up on it. Because like over time, like it started wearing on her too. So like it definitely affects, you know, your spouse as well.
Right.
So yeah.
You've coped a lot with it spiritually. How's that helped you?
Well, I say that, you know, like I'm kind of on and off. I don't know. It's been a struggle. It's been hard to deal with, you know.
You've got a good group of support guys up there.
Yeah, I do. And, you know, and like my family, they've always been behind me. They've always had my back. You know, they don't really understand. they don't really understand like a lot of it. Like, you know, you can try to explain it and all this, but they don't really pick up on, unless you've been through it and you've like seen this stuff, you know, it's hard for people to understand like
I've struggled with that
where you're coming from mentally, you know.
through my relationships with family and friends.
Yeah.
I mean, really close friends.
Yeah.
That's not in law enforcement. It's so hard to paint a picture of some things that I struggled with, but the people that's walked that line, it's part of the first responder community in general. It's like you really don't have to explain it to them; they know.
Yeah,
I mean, and it's very obvious that they know.
Yeah, that's a fact. Yeah.
So that's one thing that was always easier for me to, I guess, vent is the right word to people I know that's had the same experiences, because it's so easier to tell the story.
Yeah.
And I know you got a big group of guys that support you up there, and family and community that loves you to death up there.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
that's a fact.
That's a good thing.
That's a fact. Yeah.
I know the agency loves you to death, and
yeah.
I mean, I'm glad that you've survived this deal.
Yeah, I would say like that's one thing I've been very appreciative of. Like I definitely have people that I can reach out to, that I can talk to, you know, like that. The lieutenant that I was talking about, you know, like I talk to him all the time about stuff, you know, just mentally through the job, like stuff that I'm dealing with mentally through the job, and then, you know, just other problems, you know, that I've had. So yeah, I definitely, like you said, I got a good group.
So there was a pretty prominent guy in the media that reached out to you, and you got to meet at some point.
Yeah, so so after I got shot, this was probably September 2018. I think he was a congressman at the time, Martin Meadows. I think he was a congressman or a representative from North Carolina or something. But he ended up becoming like the chief of staff for President Trump. But so sheriff called me, or they called me one day when I was at the house, and
that was Sheriff Allen Jones.
Yeah, Sheriff Jones, and they called and was wanting me to come down to the sheriff's office. I was still recovering, you know, from the shooting. So I jump in the truck. My parents drive me down to the sheriff's office. I get to the office, and Mark Meadows he's there. He meets me. Never got to meet him. I never met him before, you know. So I go in and I meet with Mark Meadows. Introduce myself to him. He introduces himself to me. You know, we go through all that. He ends up presenting me with a flag that was actually flown over the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. at half-mast whenever I got shot. So he presents me with this flag, and it's got a certificate and everything that goes with it that I've actually got up at my house. And we're just standing there having a conversation, you know, and he looks at me and he's just like, hey, so how would you feel about going and meeting the President of the United States? And I'm just like, yeah, sure. You know,
Don't take that opportunity.
Yeah, old country boy from Caldwell County, you know, and he's like, how you feel about going to meet the president? So I was just like, yeah. And so he tells me, he's like, hey, so just keep your phone on you, keep your phone ready. And he's like, you'll probably be getting a call from a Virginia number. He's just like, if you get a call from a Virginia number, he's like, you need to answer it. So I'm sitting at the doctor's office one day, and the nurse is checking my blood pressure, and my phone starts vibrating, and I'm like, you know, you're at the doctor, you don't want to be rude, so you're like, I just let it ring. Well, then it like clicked, and I was just like, oh crap, no, I got to answer that. And I looked, and it was a Virginia number, and I answered it. And it was this dude through the some guy with the Secret Service. He's like, this is so and so with the United States Secret Service here at the White House, yada yada. And he like goes through this whole spiel, like gets all my information. He's like, I need your full name, your date of birth, your address, your social security number, like all this stuff. And if it had been a scam, they'd 110% got me, because I mean, I gave this dude, I gave him everything. And so did that, and then it was like, shoot, I can't remember the full days and like how long it was, but it wasn't long after that. President Trump was flying into Charlotte. He had some sort of meeting that he was having to go to and attend. So we go down to Charlotte, go through security, all that stuff. I got to meet up with Mark Meadows again, a bunch of other. I can't even remember who all was there. There was a bunch of generals in the military that was there that I got to meet. Like a bunch of, I think, Congress people. I think the lieutenant governor was there. And got to
North Carolina.
Yeah, at the time. I can't remember his name.
Mark Robertson.
It wasn't him at the time.
One before Mark.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember his name either.
But got to meet all of them. So then we walk out on the tarmac, just standing there waiting, and then the big old plane comes flying in, Air Force One. They fly in, they land. Secret Service is everywhere. Like, I mean, everywhere. Plane lands. They walk us up to the plane. I did several interviews with the news media, like probably 3 or 4 different interviews, just talking. So the plane lands. We're all standing in a line, and then President Trump walks out, comes down the steps, and then shakes everybody's hand, gets down to me, shake my hand, introduce myself. He introduces himself to me like I didn't know who he was. He introduces himself to me. Pretty much asked me how I was recovering, how I was healing, where I'd got shot at. Pretty much, I think he told me, he's just like, well, I'm glad you're still here, glad you're still with us. And been praying for you and all that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, super great dude. He, I mean, it was a brief encounter. I mean, he had stuff that he had to do, so I mean, it wasn't like we had a full-on conversation. But he was super nice, very professional. You could tell he actually cared. Like he was just like, I've been praying for you, or be praying for you and your family.
Did that give you a sense of inspiration or motivation to return back to the job? Yeah,
it did. Just that appreciation, because I'm pretty sure we just came out of a pretty rough time in law enforcement, where like everybody was in that mindset of like not liking cops and stuff, and to have a president that will come and he'll meet a dang redneck from Caldwell County like me.
Yeah.
That's
Did any other? I know you said there were some political figures there at that meeting that you got to meet at that time, but did anybody else from North Carolina, the political scene, reach out to you after your shoot?
I don't think so.
No contact at all.
I don't think so. No, just that. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what. That doesn't matter. What matters is you got a whole family of first responders that got your back every day.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And that's the real family right there.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll continue on no matter what support we get or don't get from other entities.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that somebody took a time out of their day to extend the handshake to you.
That daggone president of the United States, it blew my mind. I mean, but yeah, that was a great experience. Mm-hmm. And just the fact of like, man, him coming out there and meeting me, and there was another boy too that was there. I should have mentioned him. It was another officer. He'd actually got shot around the same time that I did.
Right. Was he from Cleveland County, maybe?
Yeah, Cleveland County, North Carolina. He's his name was Tim, but he got shot as well around the same time as me. So he got to come out there and experience that with me. So that was really cool. But yeah.
So you've been working with an organization a little bit. You got anything to say about how they're helping you and who it is?
You care if we take a break?
Absolutely. We take a bathroom break and we'll be right back.
There's a program that I just recently went through. It's actually been about 3 weeks now. Went through a program called Warriors Path. It's a nonprofit organization. Everything's completely free. They paid for my flight. They paid for my tickets, my plane tickets. They paid for my stay, and then they feed you 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so I actually flew out to. They have several different locations. I think one's Florida, Virginia, Arkansas, and then there's some more. I just can't remember all the different locations. But so I went to the one in Arkansas, and pretty much you stay out there for a week, and this is just like the beginning of the whole process. It's actually a 90-day course, and you stay out there for a week. And that first week when you're out there, you don't have a cell phone. I mean, you take your cell phone, of course, but your cell phone stays in your room the whole time. You only get to use it in the evening time, so you lose your cell phone, and then you go through classes all day. And they pretty much they help you. They teach you different techniques and coping mechanisms and stuff to help people with PTSD, anxiety, panic attacks. They teach you a bunch of different methods and techniques and stuff that a lot of people have probably never even thought about. Like, we all possess them. We just don't realize, like, hey, dang, I could have been doing that, and that helps a lot. Just simple stuff like breathing, just breathing techniques, and there's a lot more that they do, and I don't really want to go into detail of like what they do, because if somebody's going to go through it, I don't want to like spoil the surprise.
Right.
Because that program is like, it's a big deal. Like, I mean, that week that I was out there, and these weeks or the weeks afterwards, because you download an app on your phone through this program, and then every day we go in and you gotta like watch a video or do this, and then we have Zoom calls with like all the other guys that I was out there with. So it was me and 7 other guys that went through the program at the same time. It's military, law enforcement, firefighters, EMS, any type of first responder, emergency services. They do all that too, plus the military. Everybody else that was there with me was all military, but man, one of the best weeks of my life. Just you learn a whole lot about yourself that you never even knew that was there.
How did you find out about the program? What turned you on to it?
So what happened was, we'd already talked, like we'd talked about, you know, I started with the panic attacks, and then from there it just kind of started building. So what I noticed was, like, and it happens a lot this way, and I didn't know this, but over time, everything just keeps building up and piling up and piling up and piling up and piling up. Well, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. So what was actually happening is, like, my PTSD and my anxiety and my stress and everything was just getting worse over time. So what did I do? I do like every other pretty much every other law enforcement, emergency services, military. I started self-medicating in the form of alcohol. Started drinking. First, it started out like I was only drinking on the weekends, and then over time, honestly, it was around the time that my son was born.
You were still on patrol during this time?
No, I actually got moved.
You was moved?
Yeah, I actually got moved to detectives. So it was around the time that my son was born was when I started drinking like every day. And it turned into like, I mean, it was, like I said, an everyday routine. Well, then that just went on. I mean, you know, and I didn't really think anything of it. You know, it was just it honestly just became like a habit, honestly. You know, just I'd go home from work, get home from work, have me some drinks, and go to sleep. Go to work, come home, have me some drinks, go to sleep.
But you was going to work sober?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, oh yeah.
No conflict with that?
No. And like, that just became my whole routine. And of course, with that comes the part of the family life. You know, that starts putting stress and strain on a marriage and everything else. Me and my wife, you know, we've had our moments, you know, like every couple has, but the alcohol was definitely like a major reason for like her being mad. So it got to the point where it was just like, I gotta do something, you know, because mentally I was just like, it's almost like I just kind of checked out, you know. I was just going through the motions. It was just the same thing every day. Just, you know, go to work, do my job, come home, and then have some beer, and then, you know, and over time, you know, that just, it's not good on anybody, not good for anybody. So I eventually started noticing like a lot of anger, like in myself, you know, like I was getting real angry over nothing, little stuff, you know. So I actually met, like we was talking about earlier, I had the people that I talked to back home. I reached out, was talking to them, kind of letting them know, like, you know, what I had going on, what I'd been dealing with, you know, and so I reached out to them, and there's a guy back home or at Caldwell that he's over a program called the Restart program, and he pretty much he deals with that stuff, but it's more along the lines of like he's dealing with a lot of the people that we deal with, you know, just people in the community. It's not really, that program is not for like the sheriff, you know, but reached out to him because I've known him for a while. He came and had lunch with us. We sat down. We got to talking. He brought up this program, introduced this program to me. And at first I was just like, no, heck with that. I don't want to go do that crap. But I eventually talked myself into it and went out there, and man, that was the best week I've had in a long time. So yeah, so just working on it. You know, it's a struggle every day, but they have a saying out there that I'll carry with me for forever. Is instead of saying struggling, they call it struggling well. So
Struggling well.
Yeah. So still struggling, but
so they
struggling
contribute
well.
what you're battling with as being PTSD.
Yep. Every bit of it. Like and like I said, like they go over the whole like the incident, like, you know, they get that you've been through something out there. Like they understand it. They're like, yeah, you've been like, that's why you're here.
Right.
But they also bring in other stuff that you never even realize is stuff that's that you've been carrying around. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like stuff from before law enforcement, stuff that has affected me to this point. You know.
Right.
And then like whenever, I know it sounds kind of crazy, just like trying to explain it this way, but I really don't want to like spoil it all. So you know but the way they bring it in and the way they like bring all this stuff out of you and like how they teach you and like what they show you how to do, and you'll look back on your past and you're like, dang, I didn't realize I had that built up for that long.
So
you know,
it's been enlightening experience.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But it's all. I mean, I highly recommend it for anybody who's like dealing with any type of. Because I mean, I know tons and tons of people in law enforcement. I mean, they ain't gonna tell you, like, come out and tell you the majority of the time. You know, like, and everybody just bottles that crap up.
And sometimes there's a fear that revealing something like that could cost you your career.
Yeah.
And I think there's a stigma really about that.
Yeah.
And I'm a very much an advocate of people being open and saying, hey, I think a lot of people associate PTSD with veterans, and very well deserved. I mean, they definitely have a lot of PTSD instances, but I think the light needs to be shined just a little bit brighter on the law enforcement side, because sometimes on a weekly basis you deal with critical car wrecks, child injuries, victims of violence of all natures, whether it could be domestic violence or random or sexual violence at some points. I mean, those are things you could experience 4 or 5 scenarios in a month on duty, or maybe even a week.
Yeah, and that was actually one of the things that we discussed out there, was because it was me and then 7 other guys, and all of them I was the only law enforcement in our group. We had another instructor that was in law enforcement, but I was the only one that was in law enforcement out of the 8 of us.
Mm-hmm.
So they were all military. So like from the law enforcement standpoint, like they didn't understand any of it, and like for me, I didn't understand any of the military. You know, like they'd be telling stories, and they start throwing out three letters. You know, that base and this base, and I'm just like, yeah, I have no clue. You know, but what was funny is like we all had the same mindset, like, and then so being able to like explain to them the law enforcement side of it and all that, that it really opened their eyes. But they told me that I don't know how many times of like, dang, I didn't even think about it like that, dude. Like, God, man, like you live in it. Like, I mean, and that's what they were saying was like, we'd go overseas for 6 months, 7 months, however long they were there, and then they were like, and then we come home, like it's done. And that's what one of the instructors was saying too. He's just like, that's, you live where you're dealing with this.
It's every day.
And
even when you're off duty, you're still on guard. You're still watching.
Yeah, and that's what he was telling me. Is just like, it don't ever really stop for you. Plus, on top of that, all of them, and I'm not down knocking these dudes by any means. Like, they're well deserved. I mean, everything they went through and everything they've done. But like, and that was another thing that was brought up. Was they're all retired. They're out of it. They're all out of the military. Like, they're done with it. And one of the instructors, he actually told me, he's like, everybody else is finished, like, with their tour of duty. Like, they can really focus on themselves, like, like, and start really throwing these practices into their life. And he told me, he's just like, straight up, he's just like, he said, I'm a little worried about you. He's like, because you're the only one that's got to go back. He's just like, you're the only one out of the group that's got to go back to it. Like, you got to go, like, you go home and you get straight back to work. you know. And I mean, it has been a struggle. Like, I mean, it's been difficult, like trying to put all these practices and stuff that they've taught us, and like trying to use them consistently, you know, because in our job, you know, I mean, you know how the schedules are. It's all over the dang place. So yeah, but like I said, struggling well. So.
Well, I think that's a good term, struggling well. I think I'm struggling well.
Yeah.
I don't. It's odd. I've told this story a couple of times, but when I was active duty and during all my time on patrol, I was surprised that some of the things I saw, violence and death and suicides, you name it, the whole deal. It really didn't bother me while I was actively on duty. And now that I've been away for almost, just a little over 5 years, it started catching up to me. It's like now that I didn't have the action every week in and week out, because I think I'd seen things 2 years ago that was probably pretty significant that really didn't ring home with me, because every week I had something new popping up. It was that active in Caldwell County.
Yeah.
And so I think I've always was fresh what just happened yesterday or 2 days before, and then 2 or 3 days later it was something new. But after it stopped and I medically retired, there was things that happened 8-9 years ago that I hadn't thought about in forever that would come back and haunt me sometimes. And that's something that I've struggled with, because it just seems like they're ghosts, that they still live there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they don't go away, but it's struggling well. I think the more you touch it, the better it is to deal with it.
Yep.
And I think the more you talk about it, the easier it is to rationalize with it. You're not fighting this fight alone. You've got people that are interested in the story, and they probably have stories to tell themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's yeah, man, that was like, well, I mean, you just bring that up, you know, it gives me cold chills, because, like I said, this out there, you know, that's like what they. And like you were saying, man, like your mind stays so active, like when you're working, like on patrol. To me, I didn't have as much trouble on patrol as I do as in investigations.
Do you think it's because it slowed down?
Yeah, and I honestly, that's why I think because on patrol, you know, man, it's like you check on, and then it's just you go. Like, I mean, it's go,
start to finish, pretty much.
I mean, you check on, like, there's busy points in the day, and then there's some parts of the day where it kind of slows off a little bit, but it's constant. Like, your mind's like just go. Well, and then in investigations, you know, it's kind of a slower pace. You know, you step back and you're not out here like having to run all these calls and do all this and answer this and do that and go. It's more of like build a case, like slow down, do this, do surveillance, like, you know, like surveillance, watch this house, watch that house, you know. And I guess like it gives your mind more time to, like, the wheels to get to turning.
Right.
Because, and that was one thing I noticed about myself was, and it might sound crazy, but I noticed that I was having a lot of my panic attacks when I was driving, when I was in a vehicle. And I don't know if it's like just the closed in.
Well, you made it back to your car pretty quick after the shoot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it could have been just a relation there.
So that, and then, you know, like, also when you're in the car by yourself driving down the road, I mean, who are you talking to? You know what I mean? You ain't got nobody to talk to. I mean, your mind just sits there wandering. And then the crazy one is that I've found is a lot of times when I'm taking a shower or something, like I've found that I get real anxious in that moment too. And I think a lot of it is because, you know, like when you shower, like you're pretty much washing, you know, you're washing the day off, you know, like that's the moment of like relaxing and, you know, just and I think that's a lot of the reason too, you know. But that's the two that I've found is like whenever I'm driving, like a lot of times when I got moved to investigations, I started having them really bad, like when I was driving to work, and like I would literally pull into the parking lot of the sheriff's office, and I would just have to sit there for a minute, probably like 10, 15 minutes, and just like catch my breath and like have to check myself, you know, get my mind right before I started the day. But yeah, so I mean everybody deals with it, and you know, and that's like you saying that your stuff from 8 years ago. Like I said, I'd love to just explain it, but they got an exercise out there, and you pretty much just go back and you just start looking at stuff in your past and stuff, you know, that's affected you, and man, you'd be surprised at what pops up, and you're just like, God Almighty, you know. Yeah. So.
And what was the name of the place in Arkansas again? Just for
Warriors Path.
Warriors Path.
Yeah, Warriors Path. Boulder. It's called Boulder Crest Foundation.
And if they Google Warriors Path, they can find the information.
Yeah, I think you might have to type in Boulder Crest Foundation.
Warriors Path.
Warriors Path Boulder Crest. If you type in Warriors Path Boulder Crest, it'll pull it up. Mm-hmm. The logo is like the logo for the website is like it looks like elk antlers. Okay. So yeah, you can find it, and then you click on that page, and then sheepdog. I think it's Sheepdog Impact Assistance Program is the course that you would go through. Sheepdog Impact Assistance Program. Mm-hmm. But that's just it's all Warriors Path, but that's just what it's called.
And you actually travel to Arkansas for the initial part of it. And then I guess it's maintained online.
Yep.
Something online after that.
And they keep track of it. Like, you know, it's not like something you just, I mean, they're not just on your hind end, you know, like put like, hey man, you ain't done this today, you ain't done this today, you ain't done that. I mean, it's nothing like that, but they do keep track of it. Like if you're staying, like if you're keeping up with your videos, like if you're doing your daily routine stuff, because they want you to be successful. You know, a lot of other programs that I've seen and stuff, you know, they kind of, or they'll talk to you and then you're like, okay, have a good one, and then it's just over, you know. But this one, they're actually like, they want you to be successful. Mm-hmm. They want you to like stay on track, do what you're supposed to do to try to help yourself, you know. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad you found that help, man. And I mean, it's like I say, I want you to get through it and continue to struggle well, because I don't know if struggle ever goes away. I mean, I'm not convinced it does.
No, I don't think it ever. Especially being in this career, like I'm not knocking. Like I love my job, I love doing my job, and I wouldn't ever. I mean, heck, I came back. You know what I'm saying? After I got shot, and so I don't think I'm going anywhere. But you know, just doing this job, I don't think it will ever end. Like the struggle is always going to be there for everybody, really.
And you've been. I'm not sure on this. It's an honest question. You've been helping some with the BLET classes.
Yeah.
So you've actually been showing your experience.
Yeah. So at first I started out just showing my video, you know, and then I would explain like what happened and stuff that I missed, kind of like I was talking about earlier. You know, just like the not putting the car in park. And I'll go and help, like, talk to these BLET classes, show them the video, and explain all this to them, and you know, kind of what I've went through. Yeah. But here recently, and I've only done it one time. I just now started getting into the part of talking about the after effect of everything, and I just started doing that and went and sat down with the BLET class, actually up at Appalachian State University. Went and sat down with them, they had already seen my video from where I described or showed it to them at their firearms portion. And so I went up there this time with just the full intention of like explaining, okay, this is what happened. Now let me tell you, about the, I call them side effects. Let me tell you the side effects of the job. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, like, I think is there a book or something like that, Surviving the First Few Minutes or something like that?
It seems like I've heard something similar to that title. I don't know if I've read it though.
Well, see, and that's the thing is like everybody always teaches people like how to survive the fight, surviving the gunfight, surviving this, like doing that and doing this and that. But it's like me and another officer talked about. Nobody ever teaches you how to survive the
aftermath.
Nobody ever teaches you how to do that or to survive the side effects of the job. So I just recently started doing that and like explaining to these rookies going through basic law enforcement training, like this is real. Like this happens. I mean, the mental stuff that comes with it, it's real. Like nobody ever wants to tell them that because, you know, it's like you don't do that, you know, like you don't talk about that stuff. But to me, they need to know that. Like, cause
I don't think that. So one thing I've always said is there's some areas that BLET, basic law enforcement training, that's the required course for anybody that doesn't know, that they're not touching base on is some things that you're always dealing with. And number one, it's involuntary commitments. They really never touch. They have a small block about that that's very liked, but it ends up being 30% of your job.
No, sitting at the hospital for hours and hours.
But the other thing is stressful impact on the career, and I think they have to walk a fine line, because if they took 10, 15-year-old veterans out of the first responding police community and said, are you going to recommend coming into law enforcement? I don't know if they would get a high outturn. And if they really started telling all of the aspects of it, their student count might dwindle.
Yeah.
But maybe they should, because I'm a firm believer that for the person that's born that really has a calling to be in law enforcement, that's who they need to target to come. Mm-hmm. And I think the person that's in class that hears these negative shortfalls of the job is going to come and be a police officer no matter what. Yeah. And that is a stellar recruit, is when you get to that guy.
Yeah.
So maybe it is a good filter. It needs to be considered, you know, talking about the things like this in BLET.
Yeah, and I just look at it like they deserve to know. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, they do. I mean, this is a career decision.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like any other job you go and put your any other thing, you know, they put job description, job details, like what you're. Right. This is what you're going to be doing, like yada, yada, yada. But I think they need to know, like, it might not affect every, it may not affect
not you. Everybody gets shot at.
Yeah, I mean, it may not affect you.
Right.
But there is this possibility. Like, I mean, you know, it's like when you get prescribed a medicine, like, it may not do this, but, you know, this can happen. This is a side effect. Like it can.
And just to use you as an example, if somebody asked you the question when you were sitting in a BLET classroom, Jordan, you're going to get shot one day, how do you think you would react to it? And you're going to survive, by the way, but do you think you're going to have after effects after that? Would you thought what actually happened? Could you have answered that back then? I don't think I could.
No.
So, I mean, it's good for somebody like you that's been in that position in the classroom, not really understanding how big of a consequence it is, what the consequences are in the aftermath of it, to be able to talk to students that are sitting in the classroom, and for somebody that's actually lived it and is still living it today, I think there's not enough people like you that are going out there and doing that due diligence for the law enforcement community. So I'm proud of you for doing that, and I hope some students out there is getting helped along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just like you said, you know, like if you get someone that, like, and I'm glad you brought it up because that made me think about it, because if you get like a recruit that's in there and you tell them all this stuff, well, the one who's about that life, you know,
he's gonna come no matter what if he's been called to it.
And you know, and like nobody ever told me like about the hey man, I mean, I was told that, you know, stuff does happen. There is a chance that you might get hit and all that, but you know, you just kind of push that to, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, you know. But if somebody would have came in there and told me that, hey, PTSD, anxiety, like, you're probably gonna be dealing with all that, I still wouldn't have quit. You know what I'm saying?
Oh no, I've known about PTSD for 40 years, and I never thought that's gonna affect me. Yeah. Nah, never.
So I mean, like you said, man, like I don't think it's a downfall to go in there and tell them about that crap. I mean,
yeah.
So,
well, I'm so glad that we did this today. I'm glad that you're here and able to tell this story, because I think it needs to be heard.
Yep.
I'm glad you got people behind you. It's rock solid, and I think, where are you wanting to go with your career? What are you wanting to do?
Well, as of right now, you know, I'm pretty happy where I'm happy with where I'm at. I'm working narcotics. Really, you know, it's hard to say like where I'd like to be, and
just pretty content where you are right now, and just see
what
the future brings.
And just see what happens, you know. I'd be happy just to see retirement, to be honest with you, which is still a long time.
You plan on retiring from law enforcement?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I've always felt like I was called to do it, unless something changes and I'm told that I don't need to do that no more. Then
yeah,
I guess I'll be there. So,
well, I think you're gonna be fine. I really do. And anything I can ever do for you, man, you know my number.
Yep.
So,
sir, same to you.
Yes, sir. So one thing we're asking is, this is startup channel. It's going to be pro first responders in general, not just law enforcement. EMS, paramedic, fireman,
Yep.
even nurse. I think it's all considered in the first responder family. And if you enjoyed what you saw today, you know, give us a subscribe, hit us a like button. We'd appreciate it. We're asking badge holders to get on board here. We're going to be doing some fundraising stuff for trying to get body armor, rifle-plated body armor for agencies that may not have it in the future. All that stuff is yet to come for details on how to do that, but we're asking just to get the word out. Send it to your friends, the people you work with, your co-workers. Get the story out, and if you have a story that you think is significant for the first responder community, I'll have a way to contact us in the video description, and just shoot us an email. We'd love to listen to you. We'll talk to you, and hope to see y'all next time. I appreciate it, Jordan.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.